Hello students and welcome to this explanation. This is a very good example. It is a question that combines the material purchases budget that we have covered before and the labor budget that we are currently busy with into a single example. And this is a very good example of what you can expect going forward in formal assessments. The question reads that Beerbear, this is very difficult to pronounce apparently. Beerbear manufacturers are situated in the Vaal Triangle area. They are known for producing a single product which is a high quality lager. The manufacturer accounts for a 31st December year end. Beerbear manufacturers are in the process of setting their operational budget for 2020, and you were recently appointed as their cost accountant. It is your responsibility to set this budget. You received a number of supporting documentations and a number of supporting docs from several personnel members. In note number 1, they tell you that the warehouse manager, Mr. Very Thirsty, sent an inventory estimation for finished goods in Microsoft Excel. You will observe that they've given you the sales volume in liters and they've also given you the opening and closing stock. Please note how the closing stock on 31st December 2019 is the same as the opening stock, which is as at 1 January 2020. Closing stock becomes opening stock for the next period. In note number 2, they tell you that the beer is produced from two main ingredients, hops and barley. The purchase manager, Mrs. Ale Brew, provided you with information relating to the volumes of material that is needed. Here you can see there's hops and barley that is required. Per liter of beer, we need 500 grams of hops and 400 grams of barley. And then the price is R1.20 for a kilogram of hops and 80 cents for a kilogram of barley. Then the stock levels, they give you hops and barley stock levels. The opening stock is 2,000 kilograms and the closing stock is 1,000 kilograms. For barley, it is 500 kilograms and 230 kilograms. Note number 3 states that the beer is produced by applying two distinct processes, distillation and fermentation. And the following processes employ the direct laborers. In 3.1, they tell you that the distillation department is set to pay your laborers 20 Rand an hour, and it takes 5 minutes to distill a liter of beer. And in 3.2, in the fermentation department, laborers are paid per liter of beer fermented, and they earn 1 Rand 50 per liter. In note number 1, they ask you, or in required number 1, they ask you to complete the calculation that relates to the production liters. So in this instance, because we are making beer, it's no longer called production units, but they rather call it production liters. Then in note number 2, you need to construct the material purchases budget. And in note number 3, you need to construct the labor budget. Righto. So I've opened a new Excel spreadsheet. We are going to start with the first required part, which is your production units. I'm just going to the labor budget template and I'm just copying the layout. You will see that for the production liters or units, the layout is always the same. So in number 1, our product, of course, is beer. And in number 1, we're going to say, all right, what was the sales liters? I believe we were told in the question that the sales liters equaled 500,000 liters. So I'm going back, I'm filling it in. Then we need opening and closing finished goods. The opening was 150, closing 230. So for the opening, I'm going to say minus 150,000. For the closing, we're going to add back to 230,000. And we need to get to the sum of that total. So our total liters to produce is then 580,000 liters. In note number 2, we are required to complete our material purchases budget. In this instance, I am going to go to my layout, my template that I have shared with you on Vutela regarding material purchases. I'm just copying the layout onto my memo. And now I believe that material 1 and material 2 indeed has names. Material 1 was hops. Material 2 was barley. Then we need to go back to step 1 and find the answer, 580,000 liters. Then the required input to make 1 liter, it will be now. If we go back to the question, we were explicitly told it's 500 grams and 400 grams respectively. So I'm just typing that in. Of course, then we multiply the production liters by the grams. The production liters by the grams. You will find that we are stuck with very, very big amounts. It's because we need to convert, and the input that we are converting is to kilograms. There is 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so I need to take my answer in grams and divide by 1,000. Then we can continue with our opening and closing material. Going back to the question, you will find that they told you the opening stock for the hops was 2,000. The closing stock was 1,000. So I'm going to fill that into my memo. The opening stock was minus 2,000. The closing stock was 1,000, I believe. Then for the barley, it was 500 and 230 closing stock. So I'm just going back to my memo. I'm filling it out. Minus 500 in the closing stock. Add back 230 for the closing stock. And I need to get the sum of everything. So I am just calculating the sum of all the kilograms that I have, starting with the converted input. Now I need to calculate the price, or I don't need to calculate it, but I do need to slot it in so that I can calculate the total purchases. If I look at the question, they do tell you what it costs. R1.20 for hops, 80 cents for barley. And then 80 cents, and then of course we need to take our total to buy, and we need to times it by the price. And then that completes our material purchases budget. So for hops, we are going to spend 346,800 Rand to buy all the hops that we will need. In terms of barley, we're going to spend 185,384 Rand in order to buy all the barley that we will need to produce 580,000 liters of beer. The second or the third required part will be our labor budget. So for the labor budget, I'm going to the labor template. I'm just copying that one. So of course now this is step 2 if only the labor budget is done. And now we have a department for distillation. Distill, and we have one for fermentation, ferment. The production units will always be the same. In this instance, we had production liters. If we go back to the question, very interesting, you will see that in the distillation department, laborers are paid 20 Rand per hour, and it takes 5 minutes to distill a liter of beer. Going back to my calculation and going back to my production liters, of course, they will be the same as originally calculated, which was 580,000 liters to be produced. Then for the distilled, the hours that we now need to be careful. So it is 5 minutes. So it's 5 minutes divided by 60. You will find that that gives you quite a bit of commas, but the question instructs that you need to round your figures to 2 decimal places. So all I will do is go back and just type in then 0,08. The total hours is calculated by taking the production liters and timesing it by the hours per liter. And then we need to go and look for the wage. I believe that was 20 Rand per hour. And to get our final answer, we take the total hours times the wage for an hour. So in the distill department, we will spend 928,000 Rand in the coming year per our budget. Then for the fermentation, this question was quite interesting because you will find now that the laborers are not paid per, they are not paid per hour, but they are paid per liter. In other words, they are paid per production output or per production unit, and they earn 1 Rand 50. So because they are not paid per hour, we're going to leave that blank. We cannot have a total number of hours in this instance because they are not paid per hour. They are just paid per liter that is produced. And they earn 1 Rand 50. So all we will do is say take the production liters times 1 Rand 50. So if they do in a question state to you that laborers are paid per unit or per whatever is produced, per bottle, then the hours will be left blank, and in effect it makes the question slightly easier. So for the labor, you will spend 870,000 Rand in the fermentation department. Right, I hope that you have enjoyed this explanation. I think that this was quite an interesting question. It can shed a lot of light on important principles, such as making sure that you convert to kilograms in the material budget, making sure that you, because it's minutes, you divide by 60 because everything needs to be in terms of hours when laborers earn payment per hour. So yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed it, and there will be homework that I will post for you to complete in order to make sure that you practice these principles further. All right, keep well.